I was lying beneath Marcus, tangled in sweat-soaked hotel sheets, moaning his name while wearing the ring my husband gave me on a beach in South Carolina 11 years ago. The room reeked of sex, heat, and sin. My phone buzzed from the nightstand. Eric's name flashed across the screen. I froze. Marcus kissed my shoulder, whispered something that made my stomach tighten, and I just let the phone ring. That was the night everything changed. I crossed a line I could never uncross, and the woman I used to be died right there beneath another man. But here is the part one did not expect. I would soon find out that what I was chasing was not love at all. And the man I betrayed? He would teach me more about real love than the man I undressed for. Before I dive in, let me thank all of you, my loyal subscribers, for showing up again and again. Your support keeps this channel alive. If you are new here or just stopping by, welcome. I hope you will hit that subscribe button right now because it means everything to me. It is the fuel that keeps me pouring my heart into these stories. And if you feel something, anything, while listening, would love to read your thoughts in the comments. Do not hold back. Now let me introduce myself. My name is Olivia, and I used to believe I had the perfect marriage. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina. I married my high school sweetheart, Eric, when I was just 23. We had 2 kids, a beautiful house in the suburbs, and a life most people would kill for. But somewhere between parent-teacher meetings and Sunday Target runs, I became invisible. Not to the world, but to the one man who used to look at me like I hung the stars. Eric is the kind of man every mother dreams her daughter will marry. Faithful. Solid. Steady. And boring. God help me, he had become so boring. He came home at the same time every day. Kissed my forehead, asked about the kids, fixed the leaky faucet, and watched sports until bedtime. No passion. No fire. No surprises. I begged for attention in ways I never spoke out loud. I wore that red lipstick I knew used to drive him crazy. Nothing. I cooked his favorite pasta after a long day. He said thanks and scrolled his phone. I started going to the gym again, not for fitness, but for a chance to feel seen. And that is where I met him. Marcus was 28. A personal trainer with tattoos peeking from under his black Nike shirt and a voice that could melt your spine. He saw me. The way my hips moved. The way my eyes lingered. He flirted shamelessly. And I let him. At first, I told myself it was harmless. Just attention. Just conversation. But attention is a drug. And I was starving. It started with stolen glances. Then came texts that made my cheeks flush. Then late-night workouts that had nothing to do with reps. He asked me questions Eric had not asked me in years. He remembered things. My favorite scent. The song I used to dance to in college. He watched me like I was a story he wanted to read with the lights off. The first time we kissed, I cried in the car afterward. The second time, I did not cry. The third time, I booked a hotel room. I became someone I did not recognize. I started wearing perfume just for Marcus. I lied about book clubs. I deleted texts. I told my best friend nothing. I smiled more at home, but only because I had a secret. Eric noticed. He thanked me for being more affectionate. My stomach twisted. Then came that night in the hotel. Marcus had just finished whispering how crazy he was about me when my phone buzzed. I reached for it. Eric had sent a photo of our kids sleeping in our bed, waiting for me to come home. I stared at the picture while Marcus ran his hand down my spine. I wanted to throw up. But I did not stop him. The suspicion started small. Eric noticed I started dressing up to go to yoga. He asked why I kept changing my passcode. I laughed it off. I got better at lying. Until I left my Apple Watch in the bathroom one morning, and a message from Marcus popped up. He asked me why I was not wearing that red thong again. When I came out of the shower, Eric was holding the watch in his hand like it was made of poison. He looked at me, eyes dark, quiet. He did not yell. He just asked, "Is there something you need to tell me?" I said no. But something in him shifted that day. He stopped touching me. Stopped looking me in the eye. I knew the clock was ticking. What I did not know was how close I was to losing everything. There is a particular kind of silence that follows a question you were too afraid to answer truthfully. It is not just quiet, it is deadly. That was the silence that settled between Eric and me after he found Marcus's message on my Apple Watch. He never asked again. And I never confessed. But from that moment forward, our home was colder. Our routine was sharper. Even the kids sensed it. Our once effortless rhythm became stiff and calculated. But still, I did not stop. If anything, I became bolder. By day, I was a mother folding laundry, packing school lunches, and smiling at neighbors on the sidewalk. By night, I was living a second life, a life where I could feel wanted, wild, and weightless. It was not just about sex with Marcus. It was how he looked at me. How he touched my face after we kissed. How he whispered promises that made me believe maybe I had never really been loved before. We had a pattern. I would meet him after the kids went to sleep. Sometimes it was a hotel. Other times it was the back seat of his Dodge Charger parked behind the gym. Once, it was in his tiny apartment, on a mattress without sheets. He was rough, passionate, hungry, and he never made me feel like a wife or a mother. He made me feel like a fantasy. There was one night I still remember clearly. I had told Eric I was going to meet a girlfriend for drinks. He just nodded, his eyes fixed on the TV, lips pressed tight. I put on a dress that hugged my curves just right and sprayed perfume behind my knees, just like Marcus liked. I remember standing at the door, hoping, aching, that Eric would say something. That he would ask where I was really going. That he would fight for me. He did not. So I left. Marcus had candles lit in his apartment and music playing low, some R&B track that made everything feel like a dream. We drank cheap wine from red Solo cups. He kissed me like he owned me. And in that moment, I let him. Every time he whispered my name, I felt myself disappear further from the woman I used to be. But something changed that night. When I pulled my dress back on, Marcus was different. Distant. Distracted. He looked at his phone more than he looked at me. When I asked what was wrong, he said, "Nothing. Just tired." That was the first crack. Over the next few weeks, Marcus became moody. Sometimes he would not reply for hours. Other times he would cancel last minute. I thought maybe he was losing interest. Maybe I was not enough anymore. The thought made me sick, but not enough to stop. One night, I showed up unannounced at his place. And that is when I saw her. A girl. Younger than me. Probably 22. Wearing one of his t-shirts and holding a takeout bag. She looked confused. I looked destroyed. Marcus stepped out behind her, his face full of guilt and panic. I did not scream. I did not cry. I just walked away. That was the second crack. I returned home that night and crawled into bed beside Eric. I could smell his soap, feel his warmth, but I could not bring myself to touch him. I had spent months chasing a man who was never mine. And now I was lying beside the one who had always been, but I could not look him in the eye. A few days later, Marcus texted me. Told me she was no one. Told me I was different. That I meant more. I wanted to believe him. So I did. I met him again. And again. I hated myself for it, but I craved that feeling, of being wanted, even if it was a lie. But lies have a way of unraveling. And I was coming undone. One night, I came home late. Way too late. I tried to sneak in quietly, tiptoeing through the kitchen when I noticed Eric sitting in the dark, on the couch, with his phone in his hand. He had this look, like a man who had finally made peace with something painful. He stood up slowly, walked over to me, and said, "I know, Olivia." That was it. 3 words. And my world began to collapse. I tried to lie. I tried to cover it. But the weight of it all came crashing down. My knees gave out. I dropped to the floor. And for the first time since this all began, I cried. Really cried. Ugly, shaking sobs that came from somewhere deep inside me. Eric just stood there. No yelling. No anger. Only pain. He left the house that night. Took nothing but his keys and his dignity. I had spent months lying, sneaking, pretending. And now I was alone. With nothing but the truth and a silence so loud it felt like punishment. The days that followed were a blur. Eric moved into a friend's place. The kids asked where he was. I lied. Again. Said he had to travel for work. I could not look them in the eyes. Everything around me felt wrong. The house was quiet, but not peaceful. It was the kind of quiet that screamed. Marcus kept texting. But his words felt hollow. I started seeing him differently. His charm felt rehearsed. His compliments recycled. I was not special to him, I was just next. The truth hit hard. I had destroyed my marriage for a man who would never choose me. And then came the twist I never saw coming. I went to Marcus's apartment one last time, to end it. But when I got there, his place was empty. Not just messy, empty. Like he had packed up and vanished. His number was disconnected. His Instagram was gone. Just like that, he was gone. No closure. No goodbye. Just silence. He disappeared as quickly as he came into my life. And all I had left was the damage. I walked out of that building and sat in my car for nearly an hour. Staring at my reflection in the rearview mirror, wondering who I had become. Wondering if I would ever find my way back to the woman Eric married. That night, I walked into my quiet house, sat at the edge of my bed, and cried again. But this time, it was not for Marcus. It was for Eric. For my children. For myself. Because I finally realized the truth, I had traded loyalty for lust. Stability for adrenaline. Real love for counterfeit affection. And I lost everything that mattered. But I was not ready to give up yet. There is a kind of loneliness that does not scream. It just sits quietly beside you at the dinner table, crawls into bed with you at night, and follows you around like a shadow. That is the loneliness I lived with after Eric walked out. The bed felt too big. The house too still. Even my own reflection looked like a stranger. Marcus was gone. Not metaphorically. Literally. Vanished. Like he never existed. The man I gambled everything for evaporated without an explanation. No closure. No apology. Just absence. A ghost of my own foolishness. It was during those hollow days that I began to understand the weight of what I had done, not just to Eric, but to myself, to my children, to my soul. I had not only betrayed my marriage, I had betrayed the woman I promised myself I would always be. Weeks passed. Eric stayed away. He checked in for the kids, coordinated schedules, kept it civil. But not once did he ask how I was doing. And he should not have. I had no right to expect kindness from the man I shattered. But then, something happened I did not expect. One evening, he came to drop off the kids. I had not seen him in almost 2 weeks. He looked thinner. Tired. But still the man I once called mine. He stood in the doorway, looking around like the house was both familiar and foreign. Then he said, "Can we talk?" My heart dropped. I nodded and led him to the living room. The kids went upstairs, unaware that a storm was brewing downstairs, one not made of shouting or accusations, but of broken pieces and unspoken truths. He sat down. I sat across from him. The silence hung heavy between us. Then he spoke. I read the messages, he said calmly. All of them. I swallowed hard. My hands trembled in my lap. I know where you met him. I know how often. I know it went on for months. I wanted to disappear. I wanted to dig a hole and bury myself in it. But I said nothing. There was nothing left to say that could make any of it right. But then he said something that broke me open all over again. I kept asking myself, what did I miss? What did I stop doing that made you feel like you had to go find someone else? Tears filled my eyes. Eric, it was not you. He looked at me. Then what was it? And in that moment, I could only be honest. It was me, I said through tears. I got selfish. I got bored. I let myself believe that being desired was more important than being loved. I wanted to feel something, anything, and I let someone else make me feel it. I thought it was love. But it was just noise. And I lost the only man who ever really saw me. He did not respond. He just stared at me, his eyes wet, his chest rising and falling like he was trying to hold himself together. I kept going. You did everything right, Eric. You were steady. You were loyal. You came home every night. And I made you pay for it. I ruined us. I know I do not deserve another chance. I know that. But I need you to know I am sorry. I am so sorry. And then, something I never expected happened. Eric stood up. Walked over to me. Sat beside me. He did not touch me. He just looked me in the eyes and said, I do not know if I can ever trust you again. I do not know if we can come back from this. But I do know that I still love you. My breath caught in my throat. You hurt me more than anyone ever has, he said, his voice cracking. But I cannot stop loving you. And I do not want to make a decision out of pain. I wept. Because I realized then that this raw, painful, undeserved grace, was love. Not the fireworks I had chased with Marcus. Not the thrill of secrets and hotel rooms. But this. A man breaking, and still choosing to sit beside the woman who broke him. We did not reconcile overnight. It took time. Therapy. Tears. Boundaries. Brutal honesty. There were days Eric could not look at me without flinching. Nights he would roll away in bed because the hurt was too fresh. But he stayed. Not because he was weak. But because he was strong enough to believe in forgiveness. Marcus never resurfaced. He became just a name attached to the worst decision of my life. And honestly, that was fitting. He was never the main character. He was just the match I used to set my own life on fire. Eric and I had to rebuild from the ashes. Brick by brick. With trust. With patience. With late-night talks that felt more like confessionals. With honest answers to painful questions. We took our wedding photo down from the wall, and months later, we replaced it with a new one. A photo from a trip we took to the coast. A photo of two people who had walked through fire and chose not to run from the smoke. I do not romanticize what I did. I do not excuse it. But I understand now what I did not before. Love is not the spark. It is the commitment to stay when the fire dies out. It is choosing the same person over and over, even when you have every reason to walk away. It is forgiveness. It is rebuilding. It is grace. And sometimes, it takes the worst kind of betrayal to teach you what real love means. Thank you for listening to this emotional, raw, and deeply personal story. If it moved you, made you think, or helped you reflect, please take a moment to share your thoughts in the comments. Your engagement and your support are what keep this channel going strong. And if you have not already, subscribe now. It is the heartbeat of this channel. More real-life stories, twisted, honest, and redemptive, are coming soon. Stay strong, stay open, and never stop believing in second chances.